Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Crane, and I am the Program Director at the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. And you are listening to Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series focused on providing resources and insight for the creative entrepreneur. Today is our first Tech Spotlight, sponsored by Dell Technologies, which we'll be doing on a monthly basis. We are streaming live out of the Comcast Business Startup Studio, a room designed for Chicago's small business community located at 2112, Chicago's first music, film, and tech incubator. The Global Industry Spotlight today is on Michael Hoffman. Michael is the co-founder and CEO of Gather Voices, a technology company that automates the creation, management, and publishing of video content. He is also the founder of See3 Communications, a digital marketing agency in Chicago, and founder of the DoGooder Video Awards, which honors the best social cause video on YouTube each year. Hoffman teaches marketing at the University of Chicago and is an intentionally sought-after speaker and trainer who is a trusted advisor to business leaders on engagement strategy. I'm really excited to bring in a 2112 member and talk to him about his work. Hey, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today. It's kind of great to kind of talk about your background and the company you're building. We've been in the same office for a while. I always find it great to kind of get to know people and learn new things about their background. But just to kind of get started, can you talk about a little bit of your background and kind of getting into building Gather Voices?
Sure. So I started my career in politics. Really, my marketing career started by marketing politicians and trying to figure out how to get people's messages in front of their voters. And so did a lot of persuasion mail, direct mail, different kinds of things there. And then I had the opportunity to join a venture capital firm and start technology companies. And that's how I got into technology. And in the mid 2000s, I started See3 Communications as an agency to help mostly social good organizations, large charities like Make-A-Wish or the Alzheimer's Association or others, tell powerful stories using video and using the internet. And that's kind of how I got into this. And the transition to Gather Voices really came about with a change in the world that we're in, a world where we're all walking around with incredibly powerful video cameras, where organizations need a lot more video content than you can get from agencies and vendors. And so, we've moved into the idea of, hey, can we create technology that helps organizations get what they need in terms of video and storytelling?
Yeah, and I think just in my own work, how to capture, organize, and manage content is such a question, and a question that all organizations have. One, it's a capacity thing of like, do you have a full-time person who is capturing content and kind of managing it? Because it really takes that, right? So can you talk about kind of what some of the technology or the goals that Gather Voices like kind of hits or problems that it solves?
Sure. Yeah, I think that we have this really interesting thing happening where there's one thing happening in the world of consumers and entertainment, and completely different thing happening in the world of business and nonprofits and organizations. And so in the consumer world and entertainment, right, you have individual creators creating content for TikTok and YouTube and other things, getting incredible amounts of engagement and views and stuff and the stuff they're producing is not necessarily very professional, in the sense it's not necessarily perfectly lit and perfectly shot and all that stuff. And what's happened is people don't care about that as much, right? They care more about the message, more about the personality, more about the experience than they do about the production values. And then you go into a company or you go into a nonprofit and they're still thinking the old way. They're still thinking that every video they produce has to be some masterpiece, that they have to hire these expensive vendors to do everything that they need to do. And you have a world inside business where the same people who manage content, all the other kinds of content, the social media posts, the web content, all that stuff, those people can do everything except for video. As soon
Right.
as you say video, they're like, oh, we need the video editor, we need the shooter, we need the project, we need the different budget, we need the stuff, And so there's this real gap about what's going on again in the consumer world and in the world of organizations. And so what we're trying to do is to say, well, you don't have to be like that anymore. You don't have to have every video be some masterpiece. It doesn't make sense because you need much more content. So you, the regular person inside an organization, have to be able to collect content, to create content, to share content without video content, without needing experts all the time. And so what we've done is we realized that everyone you want on video is walking around with an incredibly powerful video camera in their pocket, right? Their phone, their webcam, those things are amazing. That's what we're doing here, right? But if you just ask someone, if you would just ask a customer or a donor or a beneficiary of your event or whatever it is to make a video, their first reaction is, I don't know what you mean by that. What do
Right.
you want me to do? And how do I do it? And what, and then there's all these logistical problems like how do I get you the video? And we know you need legal releases signed and things and all that. So there's all this stuff that makes it hard, but it shouldn't be hard. And so what we've built at Gather Voices is a way for an organization to create what we call a video request. And a video request bottles up what you want somebody to make a video about: time limit, talking points, different things like that. And when somebody clicks on that link that you send them, our software walks them through making the video that you want from them on their own device. It checks their lighting and sound. It gives them your time limit and your talking points. It has them sign a legal release, all on their own device. And when they're done, it sends you the video back to the organization where you own it. And we built a whole bunch of tools for regular people to be able to add branding, add captions, add a call to action, create a montage, create a gallery, share online, all with a few clicks without having to have a lot of skills that you'd typically see, with an editor. And, as you know, the typical way to get 1 minute of video is to interview somebody for 30 minutes and then
Right.
spend 2 weeks editing, to get that 1 minute of video. And then it lives on some news feed on social media for like 2 seconds. And you're like, oh my God, we did so much work for that. Right. And so what we're doing is we're saying, hey, record that 1 minute of video. You can do it as many times as you want, but send us the 1 minute of video. And it's a lot less work. And it all can happen in minutes instead of days and weeks that it typically happens today.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because when when you want to kind of get an answer from somebody or ask them like, hey, well, I want to make a quick video, the first question is, well, what do I say, right? Or like, what kind of questions do you have? And I've used Gather Voices before, where it sends the prompt to kind of help the person shooting the video to just go through the basic questions, which I think is an awesome tool and very efficient, instead of, hiring a full, film team, doing the interview, paying for the big edit, getting a bunch of raw footage that you're probably not going to use. And it's going to be pretty expensive. And then the other thing that has been, a hot topic, or something I think about a lot, is kind of content strategy, right? So it's like, well, what are we, we have the accessibility, or we can capture so much content with these powerful devices, but how do we use it properly, right? And so in terms of just your experience, with nonprofits and kind of call to actions, how do you see, video playing a massive role in, promoting a candidate or a product or an organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're really seeing a shift from a world where video is this special thing that you do a little bit, and then you have this kind of reveal of this one video that you made, to video being just another type of content that we use all the time in all the existing channels that we already have. So one of the things we know is that if you put video in your social media feed, that video is likely to get a lot more shares and clicks and likes than your other kinds of content. People would rather watch video. So when you're doing social, today for many organizations, 1 of every 1,000 posts is a video, because you're only doing 2 videos a year or something, right? It's like a big project.
Right.
And so what we're saying is, okay, you don't need to have all your focus on these highly polished projects. You just need a lot more volume from real people telling their real stories. I think that's the other piece of this that's important.
Mm-hmm.
The role of communicators and marketers today, I think, is much more about finding those great people and exciting stories inside your community and your organization, among your members and your customers and your fans and your donors, than it is about being clever, right? That's what it was. The role of marketers was like, let's create something cool and clever, and today it's like, no, let's listen to people, hear their stories, and then amplify the best ones. Like, to me, if you really take that on as your role, what you realize is that every community has rock stars in it. Every group, a place like 2112, right? You have all these members. There's amazing people here. But if you don't ask everybody to share their story and their experience, you don't know who they are. And so that's the other thing we're doing, I think, that's really interesting, is trying to change the paradigm from chasing people down when you need video, right? Like, we're doing this project, we got to get video. Let's get this person on video and that person on video. Let's go run after them. The alternative is, let's bake in video collection into the things we're already doing. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you sign up at 2112 to be a new member, well, you got to make your intro video. That's part of the onboarding for membership, right? And then that can go on the internet, on the Facebook group and other places, and say, hey, meet Michael. He just joined. And it's like, hi, I'm Michael, and here's my story, right?
Right.
Like, so if you're doing that all the time, you have much better results than if you're just making it this project where you have to, and nobody has the bandwidth to like do all this extra stuff. So it's like, how do we build video into the things we're already doing today? So we do a lot with events, for example. So every time somebody registers for an event, you can say, tell us what you're most excited about to come to this event. And then all of a sudden you got all this content you can use to market the event with, right? So those are the kind of things that we're doing, is the idea of just making video more accessible. And we know that it really helps channels. Like I mentioned, social media. One of the best things we've seen is our clients putting video thumbnails in their emails. Email is still the #1 way we communicate with our members and customers and, other constituents. And people are much more likely to click on that video thumbnail with the play button than they are on some text link. And so the ability to create more content, put more content on landing pages, on websites, put more of those video thumbnails in your emails, you can really see a lift in all your engagement and all your channels.
So when you mean video thumbnails in your email, so is it a link, or is it actually just a picture that is a thumbnail that has like a little play thing in the middle?
Yeah, it's you can't really play video in the email itself.
Right. It's more of an attachment.
And so if you put the play button on that image,
it goes.
People assume that's what's going to take them to that thing to play, right?
Right.
And what it really is just a link that goes to whatever that landing page is, but you've embedded the video in that landing page, and you're going to see much more interest. I just did, we're doing, again, as I mentioned before, a lot of things with events, and we see, you have an agenda for an event, and it's, these different speakers, right, that are coming. And when you just see somebody's name and maybe you see a headshot and you see a title, you have no idea if that's going to be interesting or not, right? You have no idea that the person who's going to be speaking is charismatic and knowledgeable, and you don't know any of it. And so we're working with an organization called ASAE, which is the American Society of Association Executives. And they are collecting content from all their speakers. So they have this really big conference, their annual conference coming up in Nashville in about a month. And they're going to have, 5, 6, 7,000 attendees. And they have all these sessions, and they're collecting video from the speakers. And they just posted one on LinkedIn where these speakers were taking the video at SoFi Stadium in LA, and they're like making fun of each other, these two speakers, and they're really funny and really engaging, and they're talking about what their session's going to be about. And, you know, it just got a tremendous amount of engagement because, and then people know, oh, I got to make that session. But if you just looked at the title of that, you go, doesn't look that interesting, right? And it's like, we need to do that more and more and more. And it just has to be easier to be done. You just can't, I can't send a camera crew to all of my speakers, right? I mean, right. Even the largest companies in the world don't have enough resource to get all the content that they need all the time, you know? And I've always wondered this, and, you know, I'd love your thoughts on this too. You know, you have these guys on YouTube and they're by themselves in their office and they're getting millions of, you know, they're super engaging, but they're not doing anything complicated. And I always look at my organizational clients and friends, and I'm like, you know, how do you do some of that? Like, how do you bring some of that energy into your organization? You know, I think the answer is by getting more people to participate, not just one person.
Yeah. And I agree with you about kind of the paradigm shift of what video can be used for. I think, you know, for a lot of people, like you said, it's kind of always like this marketing tool of how we can like wow you or bring you in. And I think for a lot of the YouTube people who have been successful, it's that they're authentic and it's kind of an intimate setting, right? So people feel that like real connection. It's not a, you know, a quick 30-second reel or 10-second reel. It's, you know, it's them talking or kind of opening up about who they are, and people are just attracted to that, or whatever subject matter that they're really diving into, people are passionate about. And thinking about, and I just love how you brought that up, thinking about video content as a great descriptor and almost as a connector, you know, for businesses and organizations, because I mean, you know, email is absolutely the way we communicate, but it's not that personal. You know, it's not. There was one person that we worked with, and shout out to California, who sent like the most amazing emails ever. And I felt like she was like the only person I'd really known who could send a very just like a cool email that felt like personal and informational. And I wanted to read it and I wanted to know what she was saying. But I could imagine that she would be even better if I clicked on a video and saw her talking about what's going to happen and getting people.
Yeah. And those videos don't have to be complicated, right? They don't have to be super produced. You know, but they're going to really make a difference.
Yeah. And so what's next for Gather Voices? What are you guys working on now? You know, where is the business taking you?
Yeah. So, you know, one of the things that our clients said to us was, we love capturing content from people remotely, you know, on their own devices and all that. But increasingly, now that COVID has kind of shifted and we're back to these in-person events, you know, our clients and others have said to us, hey, this is great, but we want to collect content in person in some way where we're going to make sure that we have high quality, good sound, but we don't want it with a camera crew because we don't want to wait for 2 weeks to get that content accessible. And we don't have to do all kinds of editing on it and everything. And so what we've done is we built what we call the Gather Voices video kiosk. And it's a ring light with an iPad that's pre-configured for our software. And it lets our clients collect, you know, in a one-day conference, we have clients that are collecting 50 or more videos in a day. And all of those videos, as soon as they're done, are on the platform, are branded, captioned, and shareable in minutes. And so they're able to collect a lot of content in person, but to be able to use that content right away or use that content all year long.
Right.
Like, I think that's the other thing that's interesting. So we have membership organizations, you know, that would collect member introductions at an event, and then they'd have a year's worth of content to share on social media about, you know, Meet the Member Mondays, or, you know, something on social media to do. So that's something we've gotten into, is that there is this great opportunity when people get together to get and collect stories really easily.
Yeah. And I love everything that you're saying. It's such a useful tool, and very practical in many different settings, especially thinking about what I started with is, how do you organize your content? What is your content strategy? And to be able to take one event, capture enough content to, fill a year is massive for especially
Yeah,
organizations
and I
with
think
a
we
smaller
know,
capacity.
the people who do content, who run social media and do other kinds of communication, so often, especially in the small organizations, are like chasing their tail all the time. It's like feeding the beast of our social networks and our emails and everything. It's like, we got to get enough content.
Right.
And so the idea of being able to think ahead some and be able to capture some stuff. And, one of the things that we also know is when you ask a lot of different people for video, one of the things you learn is who's really great on video, who's got great stories, who's really passionate about it. And you can always go back to those people. So once you know who they are, then you can say, hey, let's do something else with that person. There's one other thing I want to mention about that we're seeing that I think is really interesting, that, we think about video content, the content's valuable, right? Because if we collect some content, we can put it on our social channels or in emails or whatever, and it's valuable because people will engage with it and all that. But the other side of it is that when you ask somebody to tell their story, it changes how they think about you and your organization and your work. So if you have somebody who's joined, a co-working space and says, here's why I joined, their brain is changing. They're articulating this why, or why am I really involved in this issue? Why do I care about this? Why do I make music? Why do I whatever? They're going to be more connected, more loyal, more able to spread the message because they've articulated it themselves. And so what's cool is that people are sharing content that's valuable as content, but in the act of sharing content, we're creating closer connections between those people and the organizations that they're sharing with.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. Well, just to kind of wrap things up, as somebody, who worked for a VC, has their own tech company, what would be some, advice that you would have for a young tech company that is starting to, grow or build? What are some of the kind of, maybe, the 1, 2, 3s of like, here are some things that I would suggest that you do, as you're building your company?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is, don't fall in love with your solutions, but fall in love with the problem.
Right.
It's all
Right.
about what problem you're solving. And so people get excited, they invent something and it's like, look at this thing. And it's like, then they're trying to find a problem to apply this thing to. And it's like, you got to go the other way and say, what's that problem that we're trying to solve? And however that can be solved, that's what you fall in love with, not the particular thing that you've done or invented. So that's one. Two, I would say, surround yourself with people who are better and smarter than you are. I couldn't have gotten Gather Voice to where it is at all without this incredible team that we have, starting with a co-founder, starting with, our first employee, and folks that, make you look good. Like, don't feel like you got to own everything. You always got to be on top of it. You got to be the one who figures it all out. No, you want people who are going to like contribute stuff, and you got to be humble enough to be like, you know what? I'm wrong. You're right. Let's go with that. Right. Because you all want to win. You don't want to just be right. So
Right.
I think that's a mistake we see as well, is like people who are just, their ego is bigger. So I think, the leadership style that works today is one where you create room for others to really contribute. So that's, I would say, the second thing, and then the last thing I would say is, it's better to get real feedback from real customers than it is to keep working on things. This is the lean methodology, or the MVP idea, the minimum viable product. Like, ship it, get it out there, get somebody to use it and tell you, oh, it's I don't like it, here's why. Or, here's what works and here's what doesn't, or this works and can you add these things, right? Like, whatever it is. But if people will spend so much time and so much energy and so many months building and building and building and building and going, oh, we should do this and we should do that and we should do this. Well, maybe you should and maybe you shouldn't. You have no idea until you have real customers, taking a look and seeing it. So I would say the more you get things out, the more you sort of build in public in a certain way, the more feedback you get and the better you iterate. So those would be my few startup advice-y type things. And all those things I think are pretty standard advice in a way today, but not followed by everyone.
Yeah, I love that. I loved all three of them, especially the first one of being in love with the problem and not the solution. I think that you will end up answering the questions, if that is the focus. Well, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I know I learned a lot. I know it's helpful for some of the work that I'm doing. So I was definitely like taking some mental notes of some of the stuff you were talking about. Wishing you, and Gather Voices best of luck and growth and that, you guys continue to kind of, in a way revolutionize, how people are using video content, and even by simplifying the process. So thanks again for being a part of the Global Industry Spotlight.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Just a huge support of the work you're doing and the work at 2112 as well. And I'm glad to be part of it.
Awesome, everyone. Well, wow, what a great conversation with Michael Hoffman, CEO, co-founder of Gather Voices. Obviously he has a lot of knowledge and is thought about the business that he is building. And it's an interesting, concept of how to think about video content, how to capture video content. How do you use this technology to help, help your organization, right? If you don't have a massive budget, like we were talking about, to fly all over the world and get people's, videos of what they're going to be talking about, you could send an email with a link, and there you have massive content. So again, I'm just going to put below, Michael's LinkedIn, and then just gathervoices.co. Go to the link, check it out. It's a great technology. We use it here at 2112. It's easy, it's simple, it's explanatory. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. Again, my name is Daniel Crane. I'm the program director of the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, and this was another episode of Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series focused on providing resources and insight for the creative entrepreneur. We are streaming out of the Comcast Business Startup Studio located at 2112, Chicago's first music, film, and tech incubator. Thank you to Comcast Business, Dell Technologies, and Shure for providing the tools necessary to make our programming possible. Again, this is our first our first tech spotlight sponsored by Dell. So we're going to be doing one each month. So definitely check those out. Visit cceglobal.org to register for free workshops. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, and tune in next Thursday. We'll talk with Mario Ruben Carrion, a Puerto Rican filmmaker and photographer based out of Brooklyn, New York. I'm wishing everyone a great rest of the day, and we will talk with you soon. All right. Take care.